Evening, everyone. Welcome back to another week of the zooming into the weekly parsha. We have a double parsha this week once again, BECHUKOSAI, and we're going to focus in on the second of the parshas, BECHUKOSAI. If you look in the very beginning of that parsha, it says, "In BECHUKOSAI telechu." If you will go with my chukim, you'll go with my statutes. Ves mitzvosai tishmaru, and you will guard my mitzvahs, my commandments. Va'asisa ma'isam, and you will guard them. You will do them, you will perform them. So Rashi famously says over here in the opening lines of BECHUKOSAI, in BECHUKOSAI telechu, if you will go with the statutes that I am giving you here, what exactly is that referring to? Says Rashi, Hevi'amelim ba'Torah. If a person in the verse over here will take it to heart, and they will learn that it means that that a person has to be amal, they have to work hard. In the Torah, they have to take it to heart. They have to spend the time and the effort and the energy that is there. Torah is not something that's not a newspaper that you can understand easily. It's not a Google search that you're going to make to try to understand the wisdom of Hashem. The Torah is so deep, and it's so vast, and it's so monumental, that the only way in which a person is going to be zeicha, that they will be able to merit an understanding of Torah is, they must be amal, they must work hard, and put in diligence and dedication and constant commitment to be able to learn the Torah. The Ohr HaChaim HaKadosh on this week's Parsha is well known because he has 42 different pshatim, 42 different explanations of questions that he has on this verse. And if you look carefully in his question, the one that we're really going to focus on is that if the drasha, if the way that Chazal, the sages, are explaining BECHUKOSAI telechu, that if you should go in the ways of my chukim, of my statutes, and that means amelim b'Torah, to work hard and diligent in the learning of Torah. So why does it say telechu, that you're walking? You're walking, you're traveling, you're going in the ways of Torah, and that's supposed to be indicative of a hard work and energy expended. It should say, in BECHUKOSAI, if my mitzvahs you are learning strongly, if my mitzvahs you are working hard on, if the Torah you are you are learning it day and night. Why does it say over here, in BECHUKOSAI telechu, if the statutes, which is the learning of Torah itself, telechu, you're gonna walk, you're gonna go along. Walking doesn't even say hiking, doesn't say climbing, it just says walking. If you're a mahalich, if you're walking through, that's the way in which you're going to be amal, that's the way you're going to be very deep and connected into the seriousness and intensity of your learning. So the Ohr HaChaim is bothered that this word telechu, which just means walking, doesn't really seem to describe the amelis, the hard work that we are talking about according to the words of Chazal, of our sages. So he answers 42 different answers to this question. And we don't have time to go through all 42 tonight. We're only going to go through 41 of them, or perhaps we'll just see 2 of them. And there's 2 answers in the Ohr HaChaim tonight that are insights into our own personal developments in our avodas Hashem and our service of God, and our personal developments in our learning, in our appreciation and our understanding of what this great mitzvah of Talmud Torah, of learning Torah, is really all about. And the Ohr HaChaim writes the following idea. He quotes the Zohar. The Ohr HaChaim was a very big Kabbalist. He was one of the giants of his generation. And he says over the following. He says, Ki mina behami einoi mishtane migeder sheboi noilad. So he writes the following. He wants to make a comparison or contrast between an animal and between a human being. And he says that if you look at the way that an animal comes into this world, it is never really mishtane, it never truly changes its colors or its stripes, or its essence of what it is. An animal is born, okay, you have a lion, he's a cub, he's playful, he runs around, plays with his other brothers and sisters, he nurses from his mother, he runs, he learns how to hunt. He's an animal. He gets a little bit older. If he's a man, he'll develop a big mane over there and he'll become the king of the jungle. But the nature of that lion, besides that he's maybe a little bit less frisky than he was when he was a child, when he was a little cub, but the shinui, the change that a lion can make in his life is very limited. He can grow physically, he can grow with strength and with power and with might, he can grow longer and bigger, and his voice and his roar can get louder. But the inner workings of we'll call the nefesh habahami, some animalistic soul that is on the inside of him, that itself is not going to change. The lion doesn't sit up late at night and think to himself, how could I be a better lion? Maybe I should be kinder to my wife, the lioness. You know, she's such a nice lioness. She takes good care of me. She takes the antelope that I hunt and she makes sure that it's all cut up into the right pieces. She takes care of the kids so that I can sleep 22 hours a day as a good lion, as a good king lion does. Maybe I'll be nice. I'll go buy her flowers. It's her anniversary coming up. Maybe I'll go to the store and I'll buy her that piece of jewelry that she's been asking for the last 5 years. Does a lion think like that? Does he think how he could be a better lion, a more compassionate lion, a sweeter lion, one with more yirah shamayim, fear of heaven, knowing that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is watching his deeds? A lion doesn't think like that. A lion thinks like a lion thinks, which is, I'm the king of the jungle, I roar when I'm angry, and when I wake up in the morning, and when I'm hungry. And therefore, if I see an antelope running in my direction, I will leap at it with all of my might to be able to catch it. If I don't catch it this time, the only thing I can change, says the lion, is I'll try harder next time to make sure that the antelope doesn't escape me. When Jane Goodall went out to the plain fields of Africa, and she ran all of her experimentation on the monkeys, because she wanted to show how similar we are to the monkeys, or vice versa, she wasn't mishtana. The monkeys didn't change. Maybe they were playful, maybe they were kind, maybe they were sweet. Maybe that's the nature of a monkey. But the monkey wasn't thinking complicated thoughts inside of its soul over there of what could I do today to be a better monkey? How am I going to express the goodness, the kedusha, the holiness, the sanctity that is there inside of me? Monkeys cannot do that, as similar as they might look to us. And they have that thumb that all the scientists would like to say, oh, you see, that's our uncle over there, the monkey. Nevertheless, a monkey is limited to its gorilla and its monkey life. It can maybe clean its child. It can clean its spouse. It can protect the young from the enemies that are out there. All of that is true. That's called instinct. Every animal has instinct. But that an animal is going to make a shinu, a change inside of it and become something beyond what it is, animals can't do such a thing. However, Masha'in came b'nei Adam. Man, the human species, is different than that. Yishtana litzad ma'aseihem. We will change according to our deeds and our actions. V'holchim migeder legeder elyon, and we will go from one level to the other level to the other level. We will ascend in this world based on the actions that we do down here. A person has an opportunity in their life, if they want to, they can move up. They can change themselves. They can take a midah, a trait that is negative, that is bad, and they can work on it year after year after year to purify it and polish themselves up so that they are a different person than they were 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Even people can make changes in a short amount of time from who they were a week ago, if a person works hard and they put in the effort. Rav Shlomo Hoffman was once walking with his Rebbe, and his Rebbe asked him, "No, Rav Shlomo." His Rebbe was Rav Isaac Sher, and he said, "Rav Shlomo, what are you working on?" He said it's times, it was, I believe it was maybe the month of Elul, and the Yomim Neroim, the days of awe were coming. And he says, Rav Shlomo, what are you working on to be ready to greet Hashem on Rosh Hashanah? And Rav Shlomo told him, I have a certain Yetzer Hara that I've been working on for quite some time this month, and I'm working on trying to conquer it. It's hard, but I'm working on it. So his Rebbe, Rav Isaac Sher, told him, he said, I want you to know that I've been working for 60 years on myself in a certain area, and I'm still working on myself. So do not get discouraged if it takes extra time, because it takes time to reach those levels of loftiness and exaltedness that a person wants to gain. Says the Or HaChaim, he's quoting a Zohar over here, animals intrinsically, internally, the very essence and the nature of who they are, they cannot change. They have instinct, they know who they are, they know what they're doing, they know where they're going, they know how to run their lives. But on a spiritual level, they have no capacity to change themselves. On the other hand, mankind is not like that. We were given a pekalach when we came into this world. We were given tremendous challenges and inner struggles and turmoil that we are going to go through. That's the way that Hashem made us. And in there will lie the greatness that a person is going to achieve, because when we work and we change ourselves from within, that's the growth that a person is going to have in this world. Says the Or HaChaim HaKadosh, that is what our pasuk, our verse is talking about over here. BECHUKOSAI, if you will walk in my statutes, says the verse. And the sages expound upon that verse, if you will dedicate yourself diligently to the study of Torah, says the Or HaChaim, Be'amtzus Eisek Torah, from the hard work that a person puts in to the learning, the person will begin to reach the goal that they are trying to achieve. They'll go from a lower level to a higher level, and up, 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 up. If a person, says the Or HaChaim, is learning, and they are engaging in the study of the beautiful words of Torah, which is the Das Elokis, which means it's Hashem's mind. It's what's going on inside. It's the way that he's connecting his thoughts, his message, his vision, his hopes, his aspirations for each and every one of us. If a person will work on it diligently, they will go lamaila, from one level to the next, and they will grow. They will expand their spiritual horizons. They will see the world and themselves in a different way altogether. Animals can never accomplish that. They are locked into the animal kingdom. But a human being who is endowed with a neshama tahira, is such a beautiful neshama that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has given us. A Jew who is a chelik elokam mima'al, that we are a piece of the Ribono Shel Olam. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu has given us the greatest gift of man that he's given to anyone in history, which is the Torah Hashem Temima, the perfect Torah of Hashem. That then begins to, that itself is the vehicle that we use in this world to elevate ourselves. But Torah is not magic. You don't buy the book, put it on the shelf, and you will change. You can't even buy the book, sit back on your couch, kick your feet up in the air, have a margarita in one hand, chips and dip in the other hand, TV blaring in the background, and read what it says over there and change. It doesn't work like that, says the Or HaChaim. If a person is amul b'Torah, a person is working hard and diligently to understand there are so many things in the Torah that are contrary to the way that our minds work. There are so many details in the lives of our Avos HaKadoshim, our forefathers, the actions that they did, the messages that they gave over. There are things in the Gemara that are so difficult for the human mind to understand. So we have to ask ourselves, when the human mind doesn't understand, is it because there's something that is lacking in the Torah? Or is there perhaps something that is lacking inside of ourselves? Like the pasuk says, Loi davar reik michem. There's nothing empty from you. Say Chazal on that verse over there, Loi davar reik, there's nothing empty inside of the Torah. And if you find it empty, it's michem, it's coming from you. Because you didn't work hard enough to understand, to switch the brains inside, to be able to bring yourself into the world and the realm of Hashem's thought process, not our thought process. We have a thought process. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not so good. Sometimes it's yashar, it's straight, sometimes it's very, very crooked. Depends what's going on in our lives, in that day, at that time, what we've been watching, what we've been seeing, what we're listening to, what we're reading, all the different things. Says the Torah, I'm not crooked. I'm yashar, I'm straight. I'm not impossible to do or to understand. I'm very practical. I'm very down to earth. I'll enhance every aspect of your life. However, you yourself must recognize that the only way that it's going to happen is if you are willing to put in the amelis, to put in the work, to make it something that is palatable and palpable and becomes part of who you are. Says the Or HaChaim, this is the wonder of Torah that the verse is speaking about. It's teaching us that if you will walk, which means you will be a traveler in the world of Torah. You will be someone who recognizes that with every single step that I take in another page that I learn, another shir that I go to, another class that I listen to on my earphones, another Rav that I go and I ask a question to, help me understand, what does the Torah and Hashem want from me right now? In that I will be a mahalach, I will begin traveling. And I will begin walking and elevating myself in those areas that only a human being is able to. And Klal Yisrael has the gift of the Torah. We have the ingredients. We have the battery pack. We have the weaponry that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has given us to raise us up and elevate us into that arena, into that place. But the Or HaChaim continues, and he writes, Teilechu, what does it mean that you are walking, that you are traveling? Perush, it means to say, me'atzmechem, from yourself. The only way in which you're going to reach this, like we said before, is if it's coming me'atzmechem, from yourself. Your hard work, your dedication, your constant effort that you are making, it doesn't always go so easy. Ask anybody who spent years learning Torah. Every day is not easy. Even the great Rav Chaim Kanievsky, who is the probably undisputed Gadol Ador leader of our generation in the Torah world, there are stories that when he was a younger boy, his father was the stipler. He came from his father who was the leader of the generation. And so he was moving, being groomed in line to also become a great scholar, but he didn't always like the in-depth learning that there was taking place in the yeshivas. Yeshivas have different types of learning, and his father recognized. And he told him, Chaim, what do you like? And he said, I like learning fast, I like covering ground, I like seeing a lot of things. Says Rav Chaim, throw yourself into your studies, mashaliba chafetz, what your heart desires, put all of your energy in there, and in there will lie your godless, there will lie your greatness. And everybody knows that on every Erev Pesach, Rav Chaim Kanievsky makes a siyum in which he completes all of Shas Bavli, the Babylonian Talmud, all of Shas Yerushalmi, the Jerusalem Talmud, all of the Midrashim, all the Sifri, all the Sifra, all the work of the Rambam. He added, as of recently, maybe the last 10 years or so, or maybe even more, the Zohar, and it could even be Shulchan Aruch is in there as well. He learns Kol HaTorah, all of the Torah. And he did it. This year was the 70th year in a row that he made a siyum, that he made a completion on everything. How do you get that? It's not magic. It's not because he's a super genius and other people can't do it. Because if you're amelim b'Torah, you work hard. Me'atzmechem, says the Or HaChaim HaKadosh, from yourself. You put yourself in there and you work hard for yourself. You're going to reach the level. And he writes over here, Lo titzrichu lemalachim, you won't even need angels to pull you along. Lo haylich eschem, to take you to the desired destination. You will become the person of accomplishment yourself. And this is the beauty of the life of Torah that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has given us. He's given us opportunities every single day of our lives. Every single day. As we have a mitzvah, we know to learn Torah in the morning, to learn Torah at night, and it wouldn't hurt if we did it in the middle of the day as well. But every single opportunity that we have for Torah, we have to put in amelis, we have to put in effort. You don't understand something the first time, you'll do it again. You don't understand it the third time, you'll do it again. As the Gemara tells us, you cannot measure the difference. You can't measure the distance between the person who learned the Gemara 100 times and from the person who learned it 101 times. Is there such a difference? You learn the same Gemara 100 times, you probably know it pretty well. But if you do it 101 times, you know it even better. And the Mefarshim say over there, why is that so much greater? Because after you learn something 100 times, you feel pretty good about yourself, yeah? 100 times, hours and hours and hours that I learned. And now comes in your mind, should I go one more time? Should I do it another time, review it another time? I know with all the energy and all the effort that is there. So when the person does it 101 times, that shows how much he even appreciates the amelis, the hard work itself, because the hard work is part and parcel of the growth that we're going to have. In Mishlei, in the book of Proverbs by Shlomo HaMelech, King Solomon, he says over the following pasuk, the following verse: Orach chayim lemala lemaskil. The Orach Chaim, the path of life, is lemaila, is above, lemaskil, to the one who uses his mind. Lema'ansor mishol mata, in order that he will steer himself clear of that underworld down there. So the path of life is to the one, is lemalo, who is going up, and it will go up to the one who thinks in the right way. Says the Vilna Gaon on these words, Ha'adam nikra haylech. This is our parsha over here. Man is called a haylech. He is a traveler. He is someone in motion. He's moving from place to place. He walks. He goes. Shetzarich leilech tamid midarga ledarga. A person who's traveling, he must always be going midarga lidarga, from one level to another level. You know, there are people that they love traveling, and they don't even feel like themselves if they're not traveling. If they have to stay home, I would imagine that the coronavirus is miserable for the traveling man, because you're stuck. You can't go any place. You can't get on a plane, can't get on a boat, you can't get in a car, you can't go travel any place else. A person who likes to travel, who likes to move, who likes to go and see exotic places in the world, who likes to go visit family that's in the other side of the state, or wherever they might be. So that person, when he travels, he feels fulfilled. He feels that he's growing, that he's moving, that he's doing something beneficial, and that he's doing something productive with his life. A person is a mahalech. A person is a traveler. And the traveling and walking and moving means that I have to go midarga lidarga, from one level to the next level. Vim lo ya'ale lemalo, says the Vilna Gaon. If a person is not going up, yered mata mata chas v'shalom, then they are going down, down, God forbid. Ki bilti efsha sheyamayid bedarga chada, says the Vilna Gaon, it is impossible for a person to remain in one place. In the world of weight loss, there is something called a plateau. you lost 10 pounds, and for the next 3 weeks you don't gain an ounce, you don't lose an ounce, you plateaued. In the world of exercise, you're working on benching more weight over there, so you hit a plateau, 180 pounds you're benching. And for the next 10 weeks, you don't go up, you don't get down, you're stuck at 180 pounds. In your money-making world, a person can become so successful, but then it's very possible to hit a plateau. The money is basically staying right where it is. In Ruchnius, in spirituality, says the Vilna Gaon, there is no such thing as a plateau. Man is a mahalich, man is a traveler. He moves, he's always on the move. There's spiritual kinetic energy that is going through a person. And you have two choices, says the Vilna Gaon. Either you are going lemala, yala lemala, you're going to be going up, and that's the Orach Chaim, that's the path of life. But if you think that you're just going to stay put right where you are, then unfortunately you will go mata, mata, you will end up going down. Because nobody can stand still. There's no such thing as stagnancy in the world of Ruchnius, in this world of spirituality. And this is what we're saying in the Parsha this week, the same idea. In BECHUKOSAI telechu, if you will go and you will travel in my statutes, which means you work hard in learning Torah to understand what it says, there telechu, you'll be the mahalach, you'll be the one who's moving. You'll be traveling. You'll be going mala, mala, up and up and up, midarga ledarga, from one level to the next. But if a person's not moving up, says the Vilna Gaon, then there's only one other direction they can move, and that, unfortunately, that is down. And therefore we are being charged, especially as we're getting close to the Yom Tov of Shavuos. It always falls out that this Parsha is read before Shavuos comes to teach us that this is the gift that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has given us of the Torah. That Torah is not just a book, an antiquated book that we leave on the shelf. It's not just the best-selling book in all of history is the Bible. We're not talking about the Bible over here. We're talking about the amelis, the hard work that a person is going to put into his learning, and in that way will be the extension and the ascension that a person's going to have to fulfill their purpose of the mahalach, of the traveling that they're going to do. You could take an exotic spiritual vacation every time that you open up one of our holy books. Every time that you go to a shir, you're going into a new world, into a new planet. You're going to a different universe. You're going to the world of Hashem. You're going into His mind. You're going into the emes, into the world of truth. You're going into a place where it will open your mind and give you clarity to understand what is the purpose, what is the meaning, why am I here, what does HaKadosh Baruch Hu want from me. That's more glamorous than anywhere you can go in the world because it's right here. You don't have to travel far. Lo nifleisi, the Torah, it says it's not far from us. It's not something that's beyond us. It's not even so far away from us. This thing is very, very close to us. Bilvavcha, and it's right there. Beficha bilvavcha, right inside of your mouth and right inside of your heart. Says Rashi over there on the pasuk, that is referring to the fact that Torah is so close. It's right here. But you have to work hard to get it. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives us gifts along the way. He makes it enjoyable. He sends us a shir that we understand easy. He sends us a Rebbe sometimes that makes it so geschmack, such a pleasure. All of that is true. But ultimately, who's going to acquire it? You're the one that's going to. A beautiful ma'isa I just saw recently about a young boy in Europe, goes back even post, maybe pre-World War I even. His name was Label Schuster. And Label Schuster was a boy that everybody laughed at in yeshiva. He wasn't very bright. No matter what he learned, he couldn't remember anything. He learned Chumash, couldn't remember what the story was about. He learned an Aleph, he thought it was a Beis. He learned Mishnah, he didn't remember who said the Mishnah, what the Mishnah was about. He couldn't remember a question. Nothing went in. We're talking about a very thick-skulled individual. When he was already a young teenage boy, fortunately his father passed away, and his mother had the brunt of raising the family. And after a couple of years of trying to do things by herself, she saw she can't do it. It's not going to work. Label, who was the oldest boy, anyway, he wasn't learning well in yeshiva. She sat him down one night and she says, Label, I need your help. We're not making ends meet. We have to provide for your siblings. We have to pay the bills. We have to put food on the table. I need you to go out to work and get a job. Now, Label didn't want to do this. Even though he couldn't understand the learning, even though he was a laughingstock in yeshiva, it didn't bother him. He loved being in yeshiva and he worked so hard, diligently to try to understand, even though at the end of every day, it was like an empty vacuum inside of his head. But he was a good boy. And if your mother asks, Kibbutz ve'em, you do. And so his mother was able to get him a job as an apprentice for the local tailor in town. And the tailor began teaching him how you hem, how you cut away the material that you don't need, how to make basic stitches, sew on buttons. And he told him, you'll be my apprentice, I'll do the main work on the suit, and I'll train you to start with the smaller stuff, and eventually you'll pick yourself up and you'll become an expert tailor yourself. He was learning, and slowly but surely he was becoming more astute in the world of tailoring. However, when he would see the yeshiva boys come home from yeshiva, every day there was a burning desire inside of him to go back to the Beis HaMidrash. And on Shabbos, when he would go to shul, and he would see the boys from yeshiva, they were talking about the Gemaras that they were learning. And they were sitting there together as a chever, as a group of boys, and they would learn together. Label knew that he was missing something so important in his life, the life of Torah learning. And one day, as he came to davening, he was davening, he was crying, and he was begging during his Shemona Esrei. He said, please, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, give me the wisdom to be able to understand the Torah like other people. And a few days later, he came to the tailor and he said, I'm done as a tailor. I need to go back to yeshiva. The tailor was amused and surprised because he knew the reason that he was becoming a tailor was because he couldn't learn. But he saw the determination and the sincerity on the face of Label. He gave him his brachas and he told him, go and learn. So Label came to the famed Novardika Yeshiva. In the altar of Novardik, Rabbi Dovid Horowitz, who was the Rosh Yeshiva there, who was known far and wide for his tremendous belief that he had in the inner koiches, the inner strength that a person has in this world. Label walks into the yeshiva, and all the boys see him, they start laughing. What is Label doing over here? He's a tailor. What did he come here for? He can't learn. And Label said, I'm coming back to yeshiva. I need to talk to the Rosh Yeshiva. And they bring him to the Rosh Yeshiva's office, and he's let inside. And the altar of Novardik, Rav Yosef Yozel, says to him, you'd like to come to yeshiva? He said, yes. So he asked him, tell me, Label, what do you know? Tell me something in the Torah that you know. I need to give you a test. And Label, in pure innocence, plainly answered him, nothing. I know absolutely nothing. And although the altar of Novardik realized this boy is going to have a very hard time in yeshiva, he saw the burning desire that was there inside of him. He saw the love that he had of the Torah and his willingness to be dedicated and work hard day and night to try to learn. That was the language that spoke to the altar of Novardik. And he said, okay, Label. He said, I'll let you come in to the yeshiva. Every day Label learned with his chavrusa, his study partner, and nothing went in. They learned hour after hour after hour. Just when he thought that he got it, he went to repeat over what they learned, couldn't say it. And it went on like this for months and months and months and months. Until one day, finally, Leibel got it. What does it mean that he got it? It means that as they were learning the Gemara asked a question. And every day for the last several months, whenever the Gemara would ask a question, Leibel would try to say over the question. He couldn't say the simple question of the Gemara. But on that very day in the yeshiva, when he gets to the question of the Gemara, he got it. And he asked the question clearly. And his Chaver said, Leibel, you got it. And for the next few hours, Leibel just kept reviewing over and over and over again the question to make sure that he really got it. And he was so proud of himself. And little by little, day after day, he began to increase. And began to improve. Not off the charts, not major, but every day a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. And as the Yom Tov of Purim came around, everybody knows on Purim people get a little bit too drunk, inebriated, and the boys start making fun of different things and different people, unfortunately. And when they saw Leibel walk into the room, they began hooting and hawing, Leibel, Leibel, come on Leibel, tell us the question that you know. Tell us what you know from the Gemara. And then they started asking, can you tell us something over from the Gemara, Leibel? Teach us something. You're working so hard, tell us something. And they were really getting insulting. And they were really embarrassing this poor boy who was working so hard to try to understand what it says. And they kept taunting him more and more and more. And finally, Leibel got very agitated. And as he was trying to stop them, and others people tried to stop them, no avail. These jokesters, really, unfortunately, they could not keep their mouths closed. And they got to the point where their jokes were no longer funny. They were outright, they're nasty, how they were hurting him. And finally, when he could no longer take the berating anymore of these people, he cried out to them and he said, what would be so bad if a pile of bones, talking about himself, had the privilege to one time in its life articulate from his mouth the names of Abaye and Rava, two of the great sages in the Gemara? There's no greater privilege in the world. And he said, perhaps I might not know that much, but the mere privilege of learning Torah is something that I treasure. And it's not measured by how much you know, but by how much you value the learning that you are doing. Growth is not exponential. Growth doesn't mean 0 to 60 overnight. But it means you have to be working every single day. You're a mahalech, you're someone that is traveling. You're going midarga ledarga from one level to the next level. And you're working just to be moving up. Because if you're not moving up, then you're going down. And once you go down, it's very hard to pull yourself back up. Leibel understood if you just keep working day after day, night after night, month after month, eventually, as you're moving baby steps up the ladder, you're going to get to that place that you would like to be. And he ended up staying strong, even after berating, because he felt so sincere about everything he was doing. And he never stopped learning. And by the time that he was done in the yeshiva over there in the Vardak, he became a baki, which means an expert in several tractates of Shas, or many tractates of Shas, it says, and he had invested so much time into his learning. He was privileged to a tremendous amount of siyata d'shemaya, of heavenly assistance, and it was unconquerable, the relentless drive of Torah that he had. If a person is going to go in the statutes, they're going to work hard. Says the Orach Chaim, that's how you travel in this world. That's how you see parts of this universe that nobody else in their mind's eye is able to perceive. That's how you're going to grow and elevate yourself, not like a gorilla in Africa, not like a dog that just begs for its treat. It learns, sit dog, sit dog. Is the dog changing? Give me your paw, give me your paw. Is the dog saying, I want to be such a good dog right now, so kind to my master. I want to make my master have nachas. I'll give him my paw. The dog has instinct. It is trained. It wants a bone and a biscuit, and it wants to get a treat. It can't change from the inside out. Only a human being can do such a thing. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu has given us Torah, because Torah is the vehicle that we are going to use in this world to make the changes. But how does it work? Only if you're willing to work. Only if you will make the effort. It can be transforming in a person's life. In the Sefer Orchos Chaim by the Rosh, he has every single day of the week, it's broken up in the 7 days of the week, he has statements that seem very pithy on the outside, but they're so deep on the inside. A few one-liners over here, but they're extremely deep. You have to work hard to understand what it means. Al tabid lemishu katan mimcha ba'avodu b'yira. Do not look at the person that is smaller than you in avodah, in the service of Hashem, ubiyira, and in the fear and the awe that he has of Hashem either. Rather, you should look at the person and the people that are greater than you in these areas of life. Don't look towards people that are smaller. Rather, look towards the people that are crowned with greatness. Why? So the Panovich Rav Yosef Shlomo Kahaneman writes on these words the following: Madua. Why do we see that little children are always growing? They're always expanding. They're always in a rush to move to the next level. We find that children are growing more and more. They can do more things. They bring new things into their life every single day. Physically they're growing, but also in their tenacity in this world. What they could accomplish, what they can do, the skill set that they learn, it's much greater than the older person, the adult, who kind of gets frozen in his place of whatever his skill set is, whatever his talents might be. Why does the child keep growing and growing and growing, and an adult doesn't seem to keep producing new things, new ideas, new activities the same way as a child? And he writes, a child is always looking at people that are adults and bigger and greater than them. Even the little child in a house with older siblings, he's looking towards his older siblings. He sees what they can do, and he wants to be able to accomplish the same things. They talk, he wants to talk. They feed themselves, he wants to feed themselves. They walk, he wants to walk. They can make this toy, he wants to make the same toy. They put the puzzle together, he wants to put the puzzle together. They ride a bike, he wants to ride a bike. They go running down the street, he also wants to run down the street. And so on and so forth. All of the skills, all of the actions of a child are because they're always looking at people that are bigger and greater than them in their accomplishments. So therefore, shoyef umevakish liyosh kamayim. They have a burning desire to be like them. That's why they take great strides in their inner growth that they have. However, once we become a mature person, we somehow get frozen in time. We begin thinking, I know what I'm doing. I have someone to learn from. Someone's going to teach me something new. Okay, we go through life, we pick up a new hobby, we pick up a new skill once in a while, but the growth is not as constant as we find in our children. That's what the Rosh is talking about in these words. Don't look down at someone that is smaller than you in their service of Hashem and the way that they have the awe and the reverence for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Because if you look down, you're not going to grow. you're going to get stuck in place. You'll be frozen in time, but as the Vilna Gaon says, you won't be frozen. There's no plateau. Eventually you'll drop down. Look towards those that are greater. As I tala v'tirtzeliyos b'matzav yoser v'yoser nalu moram. When you look to people that are greater in spiritual terms, you'll raise up yourself. You'll expand your limits. You'll become someone that is bigger and stronger in ruchnius, in spirituality than you ever were before. And that's how we have to live our lives. We have to live our lives, admire the people that are greater than us. Look up to the people that have achieved wonderful accomplishments in Torah and in mitzvahs and in Yiras Shamayim. We have to say, wow, look what a person can do when they are humble, when they put in the effort, when they put their mind to it. A person can accomplish things that's even beyond imagination. But if I always look to someone who's below me, I can always say, you know what? At least I'm not like them. I might not be a tzaddik. I might not be off the charts in my davening or my learning or working on my midas, but I don't do that. I'm not like that person over there. Look how immature they are. Look how inexperienced they are in Torah. Look how they're just not growing, they're not striving. He comes in so late. I come late also, but he comes later than me to shul. He doesn't go to shiurim. At least I go to one shiur a week. This person is always ridiculing the rabbi's drasha. I only ridicule every 1 out of 4 drashas that the rabbi gives. At least I'm not like him. If a person looks down, they will go down. A person who looks up, they will go up. As they say in England, if you shoot for the stars, then you might just hit the lamppost. If you're striving to go higher and higher and higher in life, then you just might find yourself reaching up from one darga, from one level to the next. But if a person is not aiming up, rather their sights are down, then they're just going to keep going down and down and down. And then it's so hard to pull yourself back up. In BECHUKOSAI teleichu, says the Torah. And this is right before Shavuos, because we have to know, this year everybody's getting nervous. It doesn't look like there's going to be Shavuos in shul, unfortunately. It doesn't look like it. Certainly learning all night, it's not going to happen in shul, that's for sure. And everyone's getting nervous. What are we going to do this year on Shavuos? We're going to be at our homes. We're not going to have the delicious sushi and churros that Makor Chaim serves every year. What are we going to do to stay awake? How are we going to learn? Don't worry, if you learn the whole night, you don't learn the whole night, that will not be how we're going to be judged this year on Shavuos. What HaKadosh Baruch Hu will want to see from each and every one of us is that we tried. We made efforts in a situation that is certainly not ideal for our learning. We're going to be by ourselves. If you have children that want to stay up, so maybe you'll learn with your children a little while. But how much can a person put in the effort to learn all by themselves throughout the night? Who knows? Most of us probably will end up falling asleep at a certain point and daven later than we ever did on Shavuos morning. It's okay. That's not what HaKadosh Baruch Hu cares about this year on Shavuos. What he cares about is, did you try? Did you make the effort? Did you pick out something to learn before Shavuos even started that you know that you enjoy learning? That's something a little bit easy for you to get yourself into so that you can be a mahalach, that you can go midarga ledarga, from level to level. So that even on a Shavuos, which is going to be something that none of us ever experienced before, not together, not the shirim throughout the night, not all the treats, not all the coffees, we won't have all of that. But we have the Torah, and we have ourselves, and we have our Father in heaven who is rooting us on, cheering us on to see that we should try our best to make the efforts that are going to elevate us from one level to the next level and not drop down. Just like everybody knows that this year on Pesach, for some people, their Seder was the most elevating, uplifting Seder they ever had before. They went through, I spoke to an older couple, and they told me that it was the most amazing Seder of their life. They went from beginning till end in the Haggadah. They didn't skip a single word that was there. They had the they had the tons of Haggadahs with all different Meforshim, all different commentaries in front of them. And they went through this book, and they went through that one, and this one, and they discussed it, and they spoke about it. And they had a marvelous Seder. They got such a chizuk, such an elevating lift up and experience. And Shavuos will be the same thing. Because it'll be a time for us to say, look, every year on Shavuos, we rely upon the rabbis to give us their shiurim. We rely upon the energy that's there inside the room, people coming and going, the doors slamming, the food is coming out, ice cream at 3 o'clock in the morning with all the trimmings. We rely upon all of that. We have to come up with fancy types of classes to catch your attention at 4 o'clock in the morning. This year on Shavuos, what's going to be? A person is going to be sitting in their home, your wife and your kids, people are going to be asleep. And you're going to be exhausted. And you might be ready to go to sleep also. And you won't even be wrong if you do go to sleep. But if you take out a sefer, you take out a holy book, you take out a verse, you take out a chumash, you take out a book that you can read in English, in Russian, in Farsi, whatever language you speak. And you put in a little bit of effort to try to understand, to try to learn. Maybe those 18 minutes or that half an hour, that 1 hour that you learn on the night of Shavuos, it will be equivalent to hours and hours that you engaged in for the last 10, 15, 20 years of your life. And therefore, keep looking up. Don't look down. Don't look at what we don't have. Don't look at what we're not holding right now before Shavuos. Whoever dreamed from Pesach till Shavuos, still we're not going to be in shul? Nobody dreamed of such a thing. Well, the dream is, and it's not a dream, it is a nightmare almost, but it's reality. But we know that the Zohar tells us that when HaKadosh Baruch Hu sees Klal Yisrael striving and trying so hard, and he sees amongst the difficulties, still we're learning. Ba'amelis working hard, going up one level after the other. He tells his malachim, Chazu, Chazu, take a look, take a look. Bonai Chavivai, my beloved children. Amidst all the sorrows, all the difficulties, all the hardships, the coronavirus, no shul, no learning, no rabbis, nothing. Look at them sitting in their house over there. He's got his art school, Chumash over there, and he's going through the Parsha. Look how he's learning. Look how he's thinking. Look how he's trying. Look how he's growing. He's got his mind set on the heights. And he's accomplishing. And that's what we have to keep in mind as we get close over here. You want to make sure you have the cheesecakes and you have fancy coffees and you have enough candy that you could just keep popping it all every hour on the hour to make sure you're still awake. Whatever you need. But don't forget, if you're growing and you're working little by little by little, that is big in the eyes of Hashem. If you will go in the ways of Torah, not just walk along. It's not a walk, a stroll along the beach over here. It is ba'amelis, with hard work. And the hard work is the way that you're going to grow in this world. And then you have the crown of being a mahalich, of being someone that is traveling from one level to the next level, to the next level, to the next level, expanding your mind, expanding your heart, expanding your soul, to be able to connect to the precious and beautiful sacred words of Hashem. I'll leave you off with one more ma'isa, one more story. Also of a young boy who was born in the year 1934 in Europe. And of course, as every other boy that age, when he was becoming 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, of course he dreamed that everything would be as it was normal. You'll go to Cheder, you'll learn Torah, you'll learn Chumash, and you'll grow from one level to the next. And maybe eventually, if you put in enough hard work, you'll become a Talmid Chacham, you'll become a Torah scholar. However, for this young boy, Aaron Leib Bergman, it was not meant to be. 1934 walked him into the realm of the Holocaust, and he went through 10 very, very difficult years where he was living in hiding in the valleys and the mountains and the forest, living off of hay and straw, Rachmana litzlan. In 1944, when the war was over and the camps and everything was liberated and the Jews were able to go free, Aaron Leib Bergman was a young boy, 10, 11 years old, all on his own. He lost his parents, his siblings, everything was gone in the war. And he looked around his Polish countryside where he was from, and he wondered, what is he going to do all alone? As Hashgacha, as divine providence would have it, he ended up on a boat that took him towards the shores of America, where he came and docked in Ellis Island itself. He had a family that sponsored him in America, and they said, you'll come and you'll live with us, we will take care of you and try to rehabilitate you from the horrors that you had over there in the Holocaust. But this family just could not understand what Aaron Leib had gone through. They could not understand the torture, the suffering, the unknown, the hardships, everything that he went through. They just could not understand. And he would spend many a night in loneliness. And after 2 years of a lonely existence in America, living in a family where he just was not connecting, he was looking to what could he do to make his life better. And he began to dream. He began the dream of going back to yeshiva, just as he had like a young cheder boy before the war had started. And he went to a local yeshiva, and he went to the school over there, 13-year-old boy, and he asked if he could please enroll. And they told him, well, what do you know? And he said, I don't know much. I was a young boy, the war broke out. I was hiding in the forest over there, living on hay and straw. I lost my entire family. I didn't have a chance to learn, but I want to learn. So they told him, young man, you're 13 years old. You don't know anything that it says in the Torah. What, are we going to put you in a room of 5-year-olds? It's ludicrous. We can't do such a thing. And he went from one yeshiva to the next, trying to find one manayil, one principal that would hear his plea and hear the cause and say, okay, we'll accept you. But everywhere that he went, they said, what are we supposed to do with you? You're 13 years old. You can't be in a regular classroom. Put you in the class with pre-1A, 5-year-olds. It's ridiculous. Until he finally came to a yeshiva called Yeshivas Torah Chaim. And as he's walking through the corridors, he hears the young children singing the words of Torah. It's reverberating through the hallways, and it's warming his heart. He's beginning to feel very good. Maybe this will be the place where he's able to learn Torah. And he comes to the Menayil's office, Rav Moshe Krupnik, and he comes in, and Rabbi Krupnik sits him down, and he says, tell me, Aaron Leib, what would you like? What can we do for you? And Aaron Leib begins telling the story. A young boy, Poland, the war breaks out. He loses his family, everything. And he never had a chance to be able to sit and learn the way that he desires to. And now he's 13, he's here in America, and he has not learned since he came, and he wants to go back to yeshiva. And Rabbi Krupnik is listening so carefully with these eyes of concern and compassion and love for this young boy. And Aaron Leib is getting very excited. Maybe he finally found the one principal that's going to accept him into the school. But suddenly Rabbi Krupnik said to him the brutal reality. I'm so sorry, Aaron Leib, but we have no place for a 13-year-old boy who doesn't even know Chumash to go in the classrooms in this school. I'm sorry. And that moment, the well springs of pain and frustration open up inside of this young boy, Aaron Leib, and he says, fine, I'll accept your decision, but please do me a favor. I want you to write me a note that says, it is ludicrous to accept a 13-year-old boy into a school when he's going to have to learn with 5-year-olds because he can't understand an aleph from a base. And I want you to make sure that when I die, that notes get put into my coffin with me, so that when I go to the Shemayim, when I go to the heavens, Lamaila up there, and I come to HaKadosh Baruch and he says to me, Aaron Leib, you never learned? You don't know Chumash? You don't know a Pasuk? You didn't learn Gemara? I'll say, Hashem, I had no choice. Here's the note from the principal. And the note says that it's ludicrous for a 13-year-old boy to be in a classroom with 5-year-olds. So nobody ever let me learn. And that way I know HaKadosh Baruch will accept me, and he'll accept my excuse of why I don't know anything. When Rabbi Krupnik heard these words, he realized he made a terrible mistake. He got up from the other side of his desk. He came over to this young boy. He put his arms around him and he hugged him and he let the boy cry torrents and torrents of tears. And then he said, Aaron Leib, we'll find you a classroom. And sure enough, he began with the young children the next day. Bereishis, in the beginning, Bare Elokim. In the beginning, HaKadosh Baruch Hu decided, HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world, and he sang along just like the children did. And 46 years later, Aaron Leib Bergman is still learning Torah. He became a masterful Talmid Chacham, a tremendous scholar and a sage. And he's taught hundreds, if not thousands and thousands of young men what it means to learn Torah. And this is our gift that we have as well. Baruch Hashem, we are not Aaron Leib. We are not going through the war. We have everything in front of us, all of the books, English, Hebrew, Russian, Farsi, whatever language you speak, it's all right there. And if we're BECHUKOSAI TELECHU, we will work hard. And we'll put in the effort to be able to steig, to learn, to understand what it says. That's how we'll go Lamalo, Lamaskil, says the Vilna Gaon. Up and away. In the highest of heights, in the growth of the neshama, and in that zechus and Yirtz Hashem, while we're sitting and learning on Shavuos, Hashem says, Chazu, Chazu, take a look, Bonai, Bonai, Chavivai, my beloved children, look how they learn my Torah. That'll be a simcha and a nachas to Hashem, and that should be a schus to end this ordeal that we find ourselves in, and we should be zeicha, all of us, to meet, not with our cheesecakes, and not with our sushi, and not with our donut holes, but rather with our Torah and our mitzvahs in our hands, while we're clutching onto our Sifrei Kodesh, our holy books, in Yerushalayim Yir HaKodesh, B'mheira v'yameinu. Have a wonderful evening.